Okay, we've now moved through page 260, and we're going to move to the old business action items, life safety, capital improvement, starting on page 260. Dr. Skikas, can you lead us through that?
Just more or less a verbal report out tonight for me, and construction manager and Tim will be at the meeting on 22nd to go over our document. As you know, the stadium opened up on Friday, October 3rd, 2nd, and we had a great turnout. Overall, it was a great event. We were hanging some gates and some doors at 3:30 to make sure everything was ready for the opening, but compliments to Jeff Borg and his team, Joel Hatchie and his staff, to get everything up and running. The patience of our coaches and faculty workers that were helping us with that event to make sure things went off without a hitch. I think we were out of food in the concession stand by halftime. The crowd was so large. We've already began doing punch list items. We're adjusting the speakers. Some of the feedback we got from the spectators, because so many people were standing around the fence around the entire facility because the bleachers were over full, was that they had some dead spots with sound, so we've already did some testing and adjusted the speakers for that. We're looking at some adjustments with possibly the floor in the locker rooms. The polished concrete is pretty slippery for both the football players, soccer players. Pretty much everybody that uses that facility will still wear spikes, even though it's on a synthetic turf. And the polished concrete, we did that as a cost-saving measure just to cover over the concrete. And we've already had a couple kids slip, so we're looking to see if what our change allowance balance comes in, if that's something we need to see about maybe putting an epoxy, a graded epoxy on the floor to create some grit so kids aren't sliding around, or possibly a indoor-outdoor thin carpet-type material or a rubber-type surface. So I'm looking into things like that. We just had a long discussion on that today with the architect and the construction manager. The track surface, that began yesterday, so they were going around filling all the seams on the outside, and with temperature pending the next 2 weeks, the goal is to have the track poured before the October 23rd game, and hopefully even the fence fabric then installed. Shortly thereafter, weather pending, we would have the striping completed, early November. Most of the other punch list items are dealing with just minor training or tweaking any items. All of our caps are in, and Joe should be able to talk on that at the COW meeting in October. Tim put an updated budget in your board packet. Tim, do you know what page that's on? 262, 261?
261 starts
on 261. So there is an updated package, budget just showing bills up till this point through all of September and what's been paid out. Other than that, one other topic I did already begin discussions with the construction manager and architect to begin to submit me their MOUs, because both of their contracts kind of work on an MOU basis, to start submitting the MOUs for their next phase of all our life safety work, which we would possibly start doing next summer. Living through this once now, I don't want to be up, rushing through, because we're taking 2 or 3 months to work on their MOUs or contract language. So I've already told them today to give me a first draft by the end of the month of their MOUs for the upcoming life safety work, which deals with the roofs and the gym bleachers, and some of the cement work we have to do. The third phase of life safety work, which we still need to write an amendment for, would deal with more of the flood control on the building side, the Riverside, east of Gulf Road side. But I told them I want to, as soon as we start working through the significant items on this punch list, I'd like to start preparing work and getting vendors in to look at the different gym bleachers and floors and stuff, so that next summer we hit the ground running and we're not up against the clock with the start of school. We can start work as soon as graduation completes.
And you'll work with your council on getting ahead of this for
Yeah,
us?
most of those items are all vetted through the Public Facilities Committee on a couple occasions, including the life safety amendment hearings. So I'm thinking my advisory council can work through some of the day-to-day stuff and, and then we could report out like we've been doing at the COW meetings.
But we pretty much handled most of this in public meetings already.
Right, when we've showed all the pictures, we justified all the work, we had the hearings on using the life safety bonds for this work. So a lot of it is just getting the actual work done that we had in these amendments.
Okay.
So I started to lay the groundwork for that. I sent off a copy of our CM's agreement to the construction attorney to look at that. We need to consider if we want to do this work as just a construction manager at risk, or if we want construction manager at risk at a guaranteed max price. I'm not sure, we're talking maybe under $5 million, $4 million of work. I'm not sure if a GMP is necessary for us paying the extra percentage, but we can still have him at risk where he holds all the contracts. And with this group, I don't think we'll have any problems with budget items because it's mostly roofs and some minor stuff. But that's stuff we should start thinking about in the future.
Good.
Work that through council and through finance.
Good, good.
So question on the bleachers on the inside. Are we waiting on replacing them because they're part of the whole package?
Like in the field house we're talking about?
The gym?
The gym?
Perhaps coming up, we would do the gym floor and the gym bleachers all at once as a package.
This summer.
Okay.
It was just there's a certain amount of ideas they have, how much work they can phase in a season, and we just didn't think it made sense to try to accomplish everything there, the roof work here and the bleachers. And the same thing will probably happen with the roofs, because the early indication from the contractor and the architect is, I think the total roof work to do is still around $3 million or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they think when you get over about $1 million in roof work, it's a lot for one roofing company to do, that you're putting at risk whether they can accomplish it all and do it right. So it might be done in phases just to make it manageable. They're going to make recommendations to us. So
We discussed that today at my construction meeting. And so what we talked about was just what you said, $1 million in roofs and maybe $1 million of life safety repairs. And then in 17, do the same thing, $1 million of roofs and any other life safety repairs that need to be completed.
I asked about the bleachers there because we had positive feedback about graduation
Right.
indoors. And
Right. So when we did those amendments, Laura, when we approved those in June, one of the reasons I asked for those to be on there is because next to our stadium, with all the stuff that was going on there with the falling concrete and the busted sidewalks, and I'd say those gym bleachers are a pretty significant life safety item that we need to address, so that's why I want to address it as soon as possible. But it is a primary facility for boys volleyball, girls volleyball, basketball, junior bulldogs, it's used. Wrestling, so
The fine arts use it for various events.
Right, so the plan is to address that as soon as they're cleaning up for graduation, we'd start demolition.
Take a piece of bleacher on your way out.
You got to give the contract people, the architect, and in my mind, our contract manager some credit, because obviously they'd assume do more work and get paid sooner.
Right.
But they are going to advise what they think is really appropriate and manageable within a summer period like that. So we'll see what they recommend.
I told them the first draft of their MOU to structure it so it's a 2-year 2016-17 life safety work. This way we have an MOU with them for 2 years worth of life safety items that pretty much would address the stuff we bonded out this past summer.
And the roof will have some type of priority. We'll do priority roof first and then...
Right, based on the color coding, and Joel is supposed to set up by the end of this month with Carrie, they're supposed to come out and do some roof course to try to identify the next worst section of roofing.
Very good.
So we should be on, like I said, having done this once, the more time we can lay this out and stay on top of things. So if we get bids in and we're not happy with the bids and we want to go back out, we're not forced into any corners.
Makes sense.
And the sooner we can go out to bid, the better we can get, maybe secure some cheaper prices too. So,
Okay, any additional discussion on those items?